The Bible says, "Fill your hungry soul with what's good." When we eat, we share, we grow. Every meal is a chance to be fed and to feed someone else. Life is like cooking. When it works, it doesn't matter if the process is fancy or simple. Good food and a life well lived comes down to how much heart you put in. Welcome back. This is the fourth and final episode of our Easter series, and today we're going to be making a strawberry lemon cake. We're also going to be talking about the final challenge of Easter. If you've watched the other 3 videos, you know that we talked about Lent and getting everything out, and we talked about Palm Sunday, setting yourself on that path and going forward and not being afraid to do what is in your heart to do. And then we talked about the Last Supper. And in that one last week, we talked about the idea of taking in these ideas, taking in these spiritual ideas, just like they took in the bread and wine when they were sitting with Jesus at the Last Supper. And now here we are at Easter, and we are totally ready for this new rebirth that we're having, this new life that we're headed for, the desires of our hearts that we've been hanging on to for so long. There's a couple of messages about Easter, and the first one is that no matter what problems you're facing or what challenges that you're heading into as you're declaring this new life, it's never going to be as big as what Jesus experienced. So the real message here is that you have this, you have what it takes, you can do this. The second thing I want you to remember about Easter is that the teachings of Jesus are all the way teachings. He asks us to go to the end of everything, to everything we have, just like he did. And we come out of it the other side, reborn and anew and ready to start this amazing new path in our lives. So happy Easter, celebrate with your family, and I hope that you love this strawberry lemon cake. So let's start the base of this cake with 2 sticks of butter. And we want these room temperature. And to the butter, we're going to add 1.5 cups of sugar. And I think I've said this before, but I always use as many organic ingredients as I can. So this is organic butter and it's organic sugar. So we want to go ahead and give that a mix and really make it fluffy. To this, we want to add our eggs, and you can do them one at a time and incorporate them into the butter and sugar mix. And anytime you see it kind of rising up, just go ahead and get in there with your spatula and push it back down. Now we want to get the lemon flavor into the cake. So usually it's going to take about 1 to 2 really good sized lemons. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to get about 1 tablespoon of lemon zest. And again, because we're using the outside skin of the lemon, try to grab organic lemons when you can. That looks about right. So I always get the zest from the back of the lemon zest from the back of the zester. Now we want about 1/4 cup of lemon juice. And again, depending on how big your lemons are, you can sometimes get 1/4 cup about from one of the lemons. Sometimes it'll be about 1.5. So we're gonna go ahead and add our fresh lemon juice. And we wanna add about 1 teaspoon of lemon extract. So we have lemon 3 ways. We have the zest from the lemon juice, and the lemon extract, because we really want the lemon flavor to come out in every bite that you take of this. I know it can seem like a lot of lemon, but trust me, it turns out the perfect combination. So now we want to work on our dry ingredients. So we have our flour here, organic all-purpose flour, and to that we're going to add our baking powder, and salt. And just give that a real quick mix up before we add it to our base. And add our flour mixture. And once it's pretty much incorporated, we're going to add our milk. Just make sure that all of the stuff on the side gets mixed in. Everything's looking good. And to this, we want to add our cut strawberries. Now, these are prepared strawberries, and as you can see, we've kind of diced them into little pieces. And the reason that we've done that is so that they disperse throughout the batter really nicely. If you have them larger than this, they're gonna be too heavy and they're gonna fall to the bottom of the cake, and then you're just gonna have all strawberries on the bottom and then cake on top of it. This way, they're gonna be evenly throughout the cake, so every time you take a bite, you're gonna have a piece of strawberry in them. Go ahead and add those. There we go. And just sort of fold them in. So I have prepared 2 round pans, and you can see that I just put a bit of parchment in the bottom. It's a little bit of a tedious step, but it is absolutely worth it in the end when you're trying to get the cake out of the pan. And so this has parchment in the bottom and a little bit of grease. You can even use butter if you want. So we just want to make sure that our batter is evenly divided between these 2 baking pans. And the best way that I know how to do that is just grab yourself a measuring cup. It has to be, this is a 1 cup, and it's just super easy to do. All I do is I'm like, take a bit out, make sure that I get all of it out from there, and then just keep adding like that and just keep dividing. And then once you get to the very end, you can eyeball it and just divide the rest up like that. But I always like to scrape as much out as possible. It just means more cake for everybody. And more cake is never a bad thing. Smooth these out, make sure that it's all even so that it cooks evenly. I always like to give it a little bit of a bang on the countertop, just to make sure that it's all even, so it's kind of a bang and a shimmy. So into a 350-degree oven for 25 minutes. So now that the cake is out of the oven and totally cooled, we're gonna make the frosting. This is a whipped cream frosting, and as you know, whipped cream can kind of be a little bit unstable if it gets warm. It can kind of start to break down on you. So in order to make this frosting a little bit sturdier or a little bit more stable, we're gonna be adding some cream cheese to it. So to your stand mixer, you're going to wanna add a whole block of cream cheese, and that's 8 ounces. Now we're going to add strawberry preserves or strawberry jelly. And in Florida, during the months of February and March, it's strawberry season. And so I always can my own strawberry preserves and my own strawberry jams and jellies and things like that. So that's what we're gonna be using today, is a homemade jelly. But you can use any kind that you might have on hand. If you use a really good brand from your store, or you can, maybe have a neighbor that cans their own jelly or jam. But whatever you use, just try to use really good quality, because there's not very many ingredients in this frosting. So the better quality of the ingredients, the better it's going to turn out, the better it's going to taste. We're going to add a 1/2 cup of strawberry jam and a 1/2 cup of powdered sugar and a teaspoon of vanilla. Go ahead and start mixing that around. I forgot to mention that you want your cream cheese to be room temperature. That way it's really, really smooth. So once you have this mixed for a couple of minutes and it's completely smooth, there's no more chunks of cream cheese or the strawberry jam or anything like that, everything seems to be incorporated, we're gonna add to this 2 cups of heavy whipping cream. When it looks like it's mostly incorporated, you want to just take a minute and scrape down the sides of the bowl just to make sure that you're getting everything in there, all of the cream cheese that might be sneaking in at the bottom that the blender might not be picking up. So just go ahead and give it a quick stir to make sure everything's completely incorporated before we continue with the whipped cream. Also at this point, you can see it's kind of white, so if you wanted a little bit more colorful, more the color of strawberries, you can always add a couple of drops of food coloring. Again, this is for our Easter dinner, and it's kind of a celebratory cake, so why not make it a spring color? So go ahead and add 2 or 3 drops of the food coloring. It's important to check the consistency of this because you want it to be stiff, but you don't want it to be too much or too stiff. Otherwise, you run the risk of turning it back into butter. So you can always kind of taste test it, put it between your fingers, see if it's stiff enough. You can tell that it's not going anywhere, it's not dropping off of the whisk or anything like that, but you can also give it a taste because you have to, do the control test. So now it's time to make the cake pretty. And I always tend to do sort of a more rustic look because it's just easier, let's be honest. It's like you can, oh yeah, I meant to do it that way, and then you don't have to worry about it. So you want to put a pretty good dollop right in the middle on one of the layers. Now I have to say, I did it in 2 pans because we saw that before. But if you wanted to do this in a 9 by 13 pan and just ice at the top and make it really pretty, you can. Again, this is for an Easter dinner, so I went the little bit of an extra mile of making it 2 tiers. But you know what? If you want to make it easier on yourself, you can just do a sheet cake and ice it on the top, and it'll just be fine. So that looks about right. Again, we're not looking for perfection. We're just looking to make sure that we have an even layer so the other layer sits nicely on top of it. And then you're going to want to do the same thing to the top of the cake. Put some on the sides here. And again, you can clean up all of the stuff around here after you're done frosting it. If you want to, if you're frosting it and you put a piece of parchment down, and then you can take it out and then it's perfectly clean. But I find that a little bit of a paper towel is just fine to clean up afterwards. Thanks for watching. You can find the full recipe in the description box below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel.